Hey, I'm Chris King. I'm creative director of Batterystaple Games, makers of 30XX, which is kind of like co-op roguelike Mega Man X. Basically a co-op crisp action platformer with random levels, power-ups, weapons, bosses, all that stuff every time you play. So it sort of controls like the 2D action side scrollers of yore, except it's fresh every time you play instead of being exactly the same, and it's multiplayer. So you can play it with a buddy either on the couch or online. So we started making the game before this one, 20XX, literally 10 years ago, we just found out. We spent about 5 years making that. At the time, we really wanted to bring more Mega Man-ish experience into the world, and Capcom wasn't really doing it. So we figured we'd take our shot at it. And 5 years later, we finished 20XX, and we said there's still so much more we want to do with this formula. We feel like there's a lot we left on the table. And so we started working on 30XX with the brand new high-bit pixel art style, Ace and Nina having their own toolkits this time instead of getting the same boss powers, 3 times as many items and augments and weapons in the game. Basically, we took every single system that 20XX offered and then took it up to 11 and made 30XX with it. So we were in early access with 30XX for about 2.5 years. We just launched 1.0 3 weeks ago. So we're out on 1.0 on Steam now, and also Switch as of like an hour and a half ago or whatever. We're just out on Switch today. But our early access community with the game was such an important part of us, launching with the game and sort of continuing to iterate on our designs and make the game as good as it is now. If it weren't for early access in our early access community, our game would be way worse. So our feedback was a huge, critical part of our design process. We get asked this a lot. We don't currently know what's next for us. We'll have to see. We've been making Mega Man-ish games for about 10 years now. We still want to support 30XX for quite a while. There's a lot more content we still want to make for the game, depending on how well it sells from this point forward. Our goal is that we get to keep updating it for years to come, which means, there's probably not a heck of a need for a 40XX if we just keep making more of 30XX. One of the big things we added, we talked about the number of things we wanted in 20XX that we weren't able to pull off until the new game, and that sure is one of them. We have a full, robust level editor that you can use on PC to create your own level chunks, your own full levels. We have like a Mario Maker style discovery interface to find and play those levels. So we really wanted to unleash all of 30XX's mechanics onto players. We made all this fun stuff, and there are only so many ways we can use it because the main game is a roguelike and you have to be able to finish all the content with whichever tools the game gives you. But there are all sorts of fun things that you can only do when you can guarantee that a player has access to certain weapons or items or powers that we really wanted players to just be able to go nuts with. And it's been a lot of fun to see their creations. We're always open to bringing the game to more platforms, and we hope we do. 20XX was out, our previous game came out on Xbox One and PS4, so we would love to be part of the Microsoft and Sony families down the line here, but no official plans yet. This never, ever, ever, ever gets old. We have been doing shows like this for 10 years now, and it never gets old seeing somebody's eyes light up the first time they see the game, and they're like, oh shit, I want to play that. Never, ever, ever gets old. It's always very rejuvenating for the team. So for us in particular, we're very lucky. 30XX performed well enough while we were in early access that, it basically covered our expenses while we were making the game. So we weren't under a ton of financial pressure to finish at any given point. We really wanted to make sure that we took the time to do all of it right. And so for us, obviously the last couple of years, especially over COVID, were all challenging for their own reasons. At least we weren't under some of the same pressures as the rest of the industry. Indies haven't had an easy time lately either. It just happens to be the case that while we're in kind of a downturn right now, we happen to be in the middle of making a title that's doing pretty well for us. And since we're a very small studio and this title's kind of all we're doing right now, that means that we don't really have to worry about that too much. It's very fortunate. It's a good spot to be. The biggest thing is that if this looks cool to you, we're out on Steam and Switch right now. You can buy it today. It's got everything you can see here. If you've played 20XX, it's got twice as many levels, so many more weapons, unique power kits for both characters, a full-ass level editor so you can make your own content with it. All the same great stuff you remember from 20XX, except so much more on top of it. This is actually one of our goals after 1.0 is so we've had a couple of very amazing, passionate modders make a whole bunch of really cool stuff for the game. And so one of our goals after 1.0 is to sort of go through our own work and make that as easy as possible for them. We basically want to make sure that everything is as moddable as it could possibly be.